Are you a brand new real estate investor and you're still struggling to get your first deal because you simply don't have the money to fund your real estate deal? Or are you a wholesaler and you've collected some assignment fees? And there's some deals you want to stay in, but you can't stay in the deals because you can't fund them. Or are you a seasoned real estate investor and you just want more funding at super cheap interest rates? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, don't go anywhere because I'm getting ready to plug you into the money. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Real Estate Investing with Jay Conner. I'm Jay Conner, your host, also known as the Private Money Authority. And here on the show, if you're brand new, we most of the time and a lot of the times talk about private money and funding for your real estate deals. And before I talk about my topic of today, I want to give you a brand new free gift just for being here. And that is, I'd like to rush out to you a free copy of my new book I just recently released called Where to Get the Money Now, How and Where to Get Funding for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. You see, back in 2009, I learned all about private money. From 2003 to 2009, I was relying on local banks and mortgage companies, traditional lenders, hard money lenders, to fund my real estate deals. Well, I had a rude awakening in January 2009. Actually, it was a big blessing in disguise. I was cut off from my bank with no notice. And when I was cut off, I knew I had to find a better and quicker way to get my deals funded. I learned about private money. I was able to raise over $2 million in private money and funding. And since that time, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding. So the reason I wrote this book is because I know getting money for real estate deals is one of the biggest obstacles that holds real estate investors back. Therefore, I've written the book. I want to give you a free copy. You can go to Amazon. It's about $20 there. But if you'll go to just www.jayconner.com/book, B-O-O-K, I will rush it out to you. Just cover shipping and handling, and we'll get the book right out to you. Again, that URL is www.jayconner.com/book, B-O-O-K. I'll autograph it and rush it right out to you. Well, on today's show, I just wanted to spend.
I hate to interrupt live TV and everything else, but our guest he just couldn't find the email with the link. So he's got the email and he may be joining us in a few minutes. So I just thought I would warn you.
Okay, well, that's fine. So what would you like for me to do?
Let's just talk about one of the aspects of your business that we rarely talk about, and that is the renting side. Because oftentimes people teach you buy a house, you rehab it, you rent it, you refinance it, and then you repeat. And that's not exactly the way you've created your successful business.
Yeah, so one of my exit strategies is selling on what we call rent to own, or having a rent to own program. And my rent to own program, and this is, of course, an exit strategy for single family houses. The way I do the rent to own program really is different from the way most real estate investors do it. One big difference is, first of all, most real estate investors do not intend to actually have the rent to own buyer get a mortgage and cash them out and sell. They just want to collect a large non-refundable lease option deposit or option fee. And the person is left, the rent to own buyer is left to their own devices and their own means to getting ready for a mortgage. And I don't do it that way. I have decided since long ago, if someone decides they actually want to own a home and they engage in our rent to own program, I'm actually going to help them get a mortgage. I actually require them to enter into the credit repair program, and 80% or so of our rent to own buyers actually end up getting a mortgage. Whereas if you just leave them to their own devices and their own means, less than 5% of them will ever get ready for a mortgage. And so I have friends and business colleagues ask me, say, Jay, why do you do that? That's what you call killing the golden goose. The reason I do it is for two reasons. First of all, I think it's just the right thing and ethical thing to do. Secondly, my wife, Carol Joy, and I live here in a small town, small population. And do you think what goes around comes around? Plus, since we help so many people actually get ready for a mortgage by helping them with their credit repair, they're able to live in the home while we're helping them get ready. We get a lot of referrals. Now, secondly, the way my rent to own program works is rent is rent. I do not have any of the monthly rental payment go towards the purchase price. However, the lease option deposit or the option fee, that's actually the legal term, 100% of that option fee that they pay before they move into the house will go towards their purchase price when they get ready for a mortgage, 100% of it. However, the option fee, the lease option deposit, one of the same thing, is non-refundable. So if they do not follow the credit repair program, or they decide to move out for whatever reason, or they get a divorce or whatever, if they leave the property and they do not cash out, then in that case, their option fee is non-refundable. I retain that and then I resell the house. Another thing that's different is, it's very common it's commonplace when someone is late and they pay after the 5th of the month on their rent. There's a late fee here in North Carolina. The maximum late fee that you can charge is 5%. One thing I do different is if my rent to own, we also call them a tenant buyer and rent to own buyer is one of the same thing. If they pay prior to the 25th of the preceding month, I will give them a 5% discount. So let's say their monthly rent is $1,000 a month. If they pay on the 25th or earlier in the preceding month, they will only pay $950 for that month. Now, I do that for two reasons. First of all, money today is better than money tomorrow, in my thinking. And secondly, since I'm helping them get ready for a mortgage and actually get a traditional bank loan, then since most mortgage companies these days want to look at the last 12 months bank statements of a borrower, when the lender sees that they're actually paying early through proof of their bank statements, then that's going to help them get an approval and actually help them get a better interest rate. Another thing that I do different on my rent to own program is that during the first 30 days that a rent to own buyer moves in, I am responsible for all the repairs. I want everything to be working as it's intended, all the major components of the home to be working as they're intended. No leaks, the HVAC is working, air conditioner's working, hot water heater's working, the appliances are working, etc. After 30 days, and all this is in the documentation and the agreements, after 30 days, the tenant buyer or rent-to-own buyer is responsible for 100% of the repairs. You see, we don't have a traditional relationship. We don't have a landlord-tenant relationship with our rent-to-own buyers. These rent-to-own buyers or tenant buyers actually view themselves as a homeowner. In fact, all closings take place at our real estate attorney's office. And when we sit down with the tenant buyer, we tell them, quote unquote, for all practical purposes, this home is yours. You're responsible for all the repairs and the maintenance. The only difference is we just have not transferred the title or ownership to you into your name, and we'll be doing that when we help you and when you are ready for a mortgage. So again, we don't have this landlord traditional tenant relationship that you would with a landlord and a tenant, because you see, ordinarily the landlord is going to be responsible for all repairs and maintenance, but in this rent to own program, the tenant buyer is responsible. Now, another thing that's important about our tenant or our rent to own selling program is typically we are going to set the price at 5 to 10% above what the home would appraise for on the day that the tenant buyer moves in, 5 to 10% above what it would appraise for today. The reason for that is for two reasons. First of all, we have appreciation going on, particularly in this crazy market. So why in the world would I shoot myself in the foot, give an option to the tenant buyer to buy a house or a home at a predetermined price and give them a year to take advantage of that price? I mean, just in the past year, we've had prices going up as much as 20%. Well, if I give them an option to buy the home within a year at today's price, I just lost out on profit and value. Secondly, the reason we set the price at 5 to 10% above what it would appraise for today is because price is not the primary motivating factor that a tenant buyer has. Their primary motivating factors are the following. First of all, do they like the location of where the home is located? Do they like the home itself? Is it large enough for their family? And can they afford the non-refundable lease option deposit that you will accept? In my case, I'm typically not going to accept anything less than 5% of the agreed upon purchase price. And can they afford the monthly payment? The actual price of the home is not their primary their motivation. It's like, what is the mortgage payment going to be when they're ready for a mortgage? And then finally, another part of our rent-to-own program is typically we're going to give the rent-to-own buyer 1 year, 12 months to get ready for the mortgage while they are living in the home. Now, if they have not gotten ready for a mortgage within those 12 months, then at the end of those 12 months, if they have kept up their end of the bargain, if they have made payments on time, and they have done the necessary things that we require them to do to get ready for a mortgage in the credit repair program, I will extend their option and extend their tenancy in the home. However, if they've not made payments on time, if they've been a hassle to collect from, if they've not kept up their end of the bargain on the credit repair, then they will need to move out, and then we'll resell the home to another person. However, the majority of the time, the people do stay in and they get ready for a mortgage. And here's the deal. You're able to help so many people own a home and enjoy the American dream, whereas no other way they had to actually own a home. So there you have it, my rent-to-own program, an exit strategy. Now, I will tell you, typically I only offer homes on the rent-to-own program when I'm buying on terms. So if I'm buying from a seller with owner financing, or if I'm buying from a seller subject to the existing note. In other words, I'm not going to be using private money to pay all cash and do a major rehab and then sell it on rent to own. I used to do that. And quite frankly, I got tired of rehabbing the same house more than once. That's sort of stupid, right? So if I'm buying on terms, whereas I'm not using private money, I'm not using my own money to cash flow or to purchase the home, I'm using the seller's own mortgage and I agree to make those payments. I'll then turn around and sell it on terms or selling on rent to own, particularly if I'm not having to put any kind of major rehab money in it. And there's a positive cash flow between what I can bring in per month and what the underlying debt is. So if any of this sounds interesting to you and you'd really like to learn more, you can connect with me not only by getting the private money book at jayconner, JAYCONNER.com/book, but you can also just connect with me at jayconner.com, and I'll be glad to help you out even more on this rent-to-own strategy. Well, there you have it. Another episode.
Wait, our guest is here.
Our guest is here. Scott, on my lands, I was getting ready to sign off.
We're just getting started, Jay.
Just getting warmed up. Well, there you have it.
Just getting warmed up. That's right. So I'll let you do the introduction and bring him on when you give me the cue.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I'm so excited to have as my guest today a very, very dear friend that I've known for many, many years, probably 12 or 13 years now. I lose track of time. And he is one of the most amazing real estate investors I've ever gotten to know. And on top of that, he's got a true servant's heart and really cares about his rent-to-own buyers, cares about his sellers, and cares about his students. He has trained thousands and thousands of real estate investors all across the country, and as far as, into like 15 other countries. But I'll tell you, he comes from very humble beginnings. He started, in fact, he bought his first house over 40 years ago. And since that time, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of houses. He's an ultra successful real estate investor. He's a very, very famous and sought after speaker. He's a best-selling author. He's an educator, and he has actually educated thousands of people, real estate investors, on how to create wealth with real estate. And even beyond that, he's just, as I said, he's got a servant's heart. He's been volunteering in positions all of his life. He's been president of the Georgia Real Estate Investors Association. And he won't tell you this, but I will. My friend and guest today is actually the founding president of the National Real Estate Investors Association. So, as I said, I'm just so excited to have my friend come on today and talk about his journey. Welcome to the show, my good friend, Lou Brown. Hello, Lou. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, baby. Man, thank you so much, Jay. You know, you are looking fantastic. I'm breathing through a little bit of final COVID here. So we had a little challenge there, but everything is fantastic. And, you know, we're smoking and rolling. This is such a great market that we're in. And I just appreciate the opportunity to say hi and see my good friend, Jay Connor. Yeah, baby.
Glad to have you on, Lou. Yeah, I appreciate you telling me a second ago that I was looking fantastic. You know, there's 3 stages of life, right, Lou? There's youth, there's middle age, and there's you're looking fantastic. So, yeah. I appreciate that, Lou. Yeah, Scott told me that you'd had a bout there with COVID, but I'm glad you've turned the corner and getting better every day, right?
Yeah, baby. That's the plan.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you know, for the benefit of those that Lou Brown is new to, let's go back to your humble beginnings and let's hear the story as to how in the world you got into real estate way back when.
Man, Jay, you know, it's an interesting thing. My mother came over to this country as an immigrant. She came over on the Queen Mary. She had met her American trooper husband. Everything was going to be fantastic. She got here and she found out he was an alcoholic and an abuser. So she had to get rid of him. And then I make the joke, then she met my father, her second mistake. So it ended up just being the 2 of us, kind of against the world. And we kind of raised each other. It was an interesting journey, no doubt about it. But one of the things I experienced was having absolutely no money. And I knew what it was like to be on the other side of the door when the rent man came and, you know, knocking on the door and mom says, shh, don't answer the door. Don't answer the door. I'll have the money on Friday. I don't want to face him. So definitely I've lived what life looks like on that side. And then I met one of her friends, and I called her friends aunts and uncles, since in this country I didn't have any aunts and uncles. So, or brothers or sisters or cousins or grandparents or anybody. It was just the 2 of us. And what was interesting about that is that Aunt May, when I was 8 years old, Jay, she tells me that she had bought the duplex that she lives in. Now, and that was kind of fascinating to hear that. And she told me that the people on the other side were paying enough money in rent to cover the mortgage. And that said to me, my little 8-year-old brain, that they were living for free. So here we were hiding out from the rent man, and here she was living for free. And that's when I realized there's parallel universes. And I said, man, when I discovered that that was a possibility, I started paying attention to her. Well, then she bought the one next door, and then she bought the one next door, and she bought the one next door. Pretty soon she had 5 duplexes. And then she called me and said, come on over here and help me move. And she moved into a brand new house on a corner lot, all brick house. And I said, Aunt Mabel, how did you do this? And she said 2 words, Jay, that changed my life. She said, accumulate property. And I never forgot that. And I started accumulating property. I bought my first house when I was 18 years old. And I was able to do that by taking over the existing financing on the property, like you were talking about earlier, you know, subject to, well, back in the day, you could do NENQ. You could do non-escalating, non-qualifying loans. And so for $45, my first house, I was able to take over somebody else's financing. Well, Jay, I got the bug. I absolutely got the bug. And I said, all right, yeah, baby, this sounds like a plan. And to this day now, 40 years later, I've never been to the bank. I've never qualified for a loan. on a single family or small multifamily property. And so, it just goes to show that there's different ways to do things. And I know you teach amazing information about private money, which is one of the ways that we buy properties as well. And so it's just a fun thing when you can zero in on the financial aspect of how you're acquiring the property. And that's how I was able to buy my first property.
Well, at 17 years old, how in the world did you learn about a strategy of taking over debt and making somebody's payments and getting the deed transferred into your name?
Well, it was actually 18, and it was Aunt Mabel who said, "Hey, you need to meet my friend Realtor Sue." Well, sure enough, Realtor Sue had the bag of tricks. So I get in her car, we drive around like I'm going to buy a house or something, right, at 18 years old. And I said, "Honey, I can't qualify my way out of a paper bag." And she just was not to worry. See, Aunt Mabel had built her fortune by going to banks and qualifying for loans, using the job she had, qualifying for loans. And there's nothing wrong with that. But hey, I found out from Realtor Sue that you could take over existing financing. So sure enough, that's exactly what I did. And then when I was actually transferred from Charlotte, North Carolina, right? North Carolina, another fellow North Carolinian brother there. And I was transferred to Atlanta, and they said, "Hey, we will pay your closing costs if you sell that house in Charlotte, and we will pay your closing costs in Atlanta if you buy a house down here." So that was the perfect bribe for me to buy another house. And I bought the second house the same way, taking over existing financing. And then I bought my next property, which was a duplex, got the seller to carry back. I took over that financing, got the seller to carry back financing. And then I started into the world of creative financing and discovering that there were so many different ways I could structure the deal where I could help the seller out, solve their problem, and not go to the bank and not qualify for a loan.
That's a beautiful thing. So, you've been doing this a long time. When you started out, what were some of your early struggles and challenges and early lessons learned, and how you overcame the challenges?
Well, that's an interesting question. Early struggles back in the day, there weren't people like you and me that could train people. So there was really no training. There was no place. I mean, there was a couple of books. Bill Nickerson had a book, how I took $1 and made it into $1 million or whatever it was. And that was one of the very first books. And the first book I read, though, was Mark Harrelson's book, How to Wake Up the Financial Genius Inside You. And that mesmerized me. That book just captured my imagination. And I said, I'm going to do this thing. I just made a decision. I'm going to do this thing. And that was the only training I had. It's just there wasn't anything else. And so I just struggled. I remember that the first duplex I bought, it was the cash flow was $6.67 a month. And he said, "My God, why in the hell did you buy that?" Well, the reason I did was because back then Ronald Reagan had just come into office. Now, remember, when I got started in this business, Jay, interest rates were 21% in this country. It's hard to believe that interest rates in this country were 21%, but they were. So when I got started in this business, that's exactly what I did. I said, okay, the only way I can buy this property is to take over the existing financing and get the seller to carry back financing. Well, they were very flexible back then because that's the only way they could sell anything, right? 21% interest, nobody was buying. So the economy was a disaster. And Ronald Reagan came in and he says, "I know how to get this thing going." He says, we're going to incentivize people. We're going to bribe people to be in real estate. And so sure enough, you could write off a property over 15 years. So sure enough, I bought that duplex, just had $6.67 cash flow, but it had a great write-off. So it was really able to help me in my other world, because at that time I was working for somebody else and I was making money. And so as a result, I was able to have huge tax benefits, and it really made sense to buy that property. So that was, but there was nobody to teach any skills in terms of landlording. Man, have I become a skilled landlord, because I'm now over 1,000 Section 8 contracts. So I'm a veteran of that program, but I haven't done Section 8 in years, because I found out exactly what you were talking about, rent to own and owner finance. And I love what we do to help people end up with home ownership. So that's really my direction now, having evolved from being a landlord. I don't like landlording at all. We don't even offer rentals anymore. We just offer rent to own, owner financing, or cash sale. That's pretty much our program.
Right. So you started answering the question there. How would you describe your business model? Your business is really different from most other real estate investors.
Well, that's a great question, Jay. You know, our way of being really is that I discovered that there's some pitfalls in this business. Obviously, real estate is cyclical. There's some risk involved in being in this business, because if you hit this at the wrong stride, or you're in the wrong market and in the wrong part of the country, for example, then you can get stuck with a property. And it's like musical chairs. You never know when they're going to cut off the music and you're the one left standing. And it's happened to so many people. I'm going into my 5th real estate cycle, Jay. So I've been there and done that. I have seen what these economies do. I've seen that you don't get real warning. It just all of a sudden happens, and they do it on purpose. They absolutely do it to disrupt the marketplace. And so what I discovered is, if I went ahead and found my buyers first, and that's what we do, we actually market to find our buyers and our renters before we buy the real estate. So we've got an inventory of buyers. And then as the real estate comes along, I've actually got a customer I can put into that property. I already know how much down payment they've got. I know how much they can afford on a monthly basis. I know what their credit looks like. So we've got them all teed up. We put them into a membership, and we call it the path to home ownership. So they're in a membership. They understand what they're doing. They're excited about it. They want to play the game. And so we're helping them to play that game. And we give them a holding tank, so to speak, a place to be. We help them build their credit. We help them build their down payment while they're in the membership. And then we find a house for them. So we're in a very protected, safe zone to be able to buy real estate, because we already know who our customer is and how much money they've got to work with.
It sounds like your system and way of doing business is the real estate investor doing it your way doesn't have to worry about being stuck with a house they can't sell.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So, and you know, here's another cool thing, Jay, and I know you love renovations, and my God, I've done hundreds of renovations, but it's not my favorite thing, because I discovered that my customers would actually do some or all of the repairs to the home. And I really like that program. I like that program a lot. And so they get to, you know, have you ever had, you fixed it up beautiful, you painted it beautiful, and somebody comes in and says, who chose these colors? Or who chose this flooring and all this stuff? And you're going, for goodness sake. And so I said, you know, what if we just did it a whole different way? They get to choose their colors. They get to choose their flooring. They get to choose anything they want. And in fact, they can go buy it and do it themselves if they want to. But we don't make that a requirement to the program. We just give them an opportunity to have that. And we tell them in advance, look, we haven't fixed up this house yet. Are you prepared for that? Because if you're not prepared for that, I don't want to show you this house until it's fixed up. And a lot of people say, sure, I'm okay with that. And so they come in and we give them credit towards their down payment for doing some or all of the repairs. And they love it. They just love it. And we've had some spectacular work done. I mean, much nicer than I would have done. And they, because it's their home, right? So they're picking out their stuff. So you and I are at the sale table at Home Depot and you know, finding the ceiling fans and the faucets, and they're getting $150 faucets and $150 ceiling fans, and they're doing the really nice stuff in the home, and I'm just loving it. So I get them to take before and after pictures, and we do a whole celebration celebration with them. I give them a big toolbox and all kinds of cool stuff. And it's all part of our program, the Path to Home Ownership.
Well, Lou, I finally woke up and smelled the roses myself a few years ago. I finally decided that whenever I buy a house, what you and I call on terms, by taking over the debt or buying it with seller financing, and then I'm going to sell it on terms, sell it on the rent to own program. If it's got purple walls, orange walls, brown walls, it don't matter. We tell them, say, look, you're going to pick out your own colors anyway. Why should I paint it when you're going to change it?
Exactly. Exactly. You got it. And they love it too. They love the opportunity to customize it. And I call it customize. You can customize this to your taste.
That's right. That's right. Well, now, Lou, you're a expert and a specialist when it comes to creative financing and also building wealth for the long term. That is for real estate investors. And I've heard you talk in the past time and again about how a real estate investor can actually structure a quote unquote building wealth program or retirement program to where they can actually have income for the next 30 or 40 years. How in the world does that work?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one more step from rent to own. So in the rent to own world, you're giving them, now what we do is we give them up to 3 years to buy. So we give them a fixed price for the first year. Then after the first year, the price begins to appreciate. But at any time in that 3-year span, they can exercise their option to buy and move up to our in-house financing program. So our in-house financing program requires that they pay us at least 10% of the purchase price of the home. And so that brings in more cash to the company. And now you've got a customer who's with you, and we offer them 40-year financing, and they love it. And we roll the points into the loan, and they don't have a problem with that. And here's the cool thing. Now, Jay, just in the last, I'm telling you, this is the absolute truth. Last week, we had 2 houses closed. One of them was one of my renters that moved up to what we call the platinum level. So we have a bronze, silver, gold, and platinum level. Moved up to the platinum level, meaning that she got a brand new loan from the bank. And so she became a platinum customer of ours. And that brought in $240,000 to us. Now, I bought that house, I'm embarrassed to say, I bought that house for a whole lot less. Let's just say I bought that house for a whole lot less. But what happened was she moved in under our Path to Home Ownership program. She's been there almost 3 years. She built up her credit while she was with us. We report to the credit bureau, so we help build another trade line of credit. She got all that done. She went with the mortgage broker that we provided, and she was able to absolutely get a brand new loan from the bank. Now, that was one deal last week. The second deal last week was this lady who comes along. She is on the internet. She has a beautiful business. She's been in business for like 9 years. She's got an internet store, and she sells all kinds of stuff. She also does Uber Eats and DoorDash, and she's just an entrepreneur. I love these people. I just love these people. So she comes along, and we sold her a house for $269,900. So that means she got 26. She came in. She had the money, man. She came in $26,900 plus her proration. She gave us $30,000 at closing, and she's got a 40-year loan with us, and we were able to sell it to her in her company name. So we're helping her build her company credit as well. And that's just an example. 2 deals in the last week, and this is all based on offering something that the marketplace needs, because there's a lot of people out there that cannot qualify for a traditional loan at the bank, but they can qualify at the bank of you, right? So they can qualify at the bank of you as long as you got to check them out. You got to make sure that they have dependable, predictable monthly income. You got to make sure that it's reliable income. And then as a result of your checking them out, you find out that they're good people. Man, I can do these all day and twice on Sunday.
There you go. So how do you find these buyers that need, your special type of financing?
So we developed over time, we developed a marketing strategy. So our marketing strategy includes on-site marketing, online marketing, field marketing, event marketing, auction marketing. So there's a number of things that we do to attract these folks. And we get connected with the community. We get connected with real estate agents. Now, here's a good one. So what was about 4 weeks ago, I had a real estate agent bring me somebody. That guy had $60,000 to put down. And sure enough, we put him into one of our homes. And the real estate agent made a full commission, a 3% commission on that. So you see, we connect with real estate agents as well. Phenomenal customers come from real estate agents. So that's another connection that we make to let the agents know, hey, whenever you can't sell them a house the traditional way, we have our Path to Home Ownership program. And one of the things I do is I share with the agents about who we are and what we do, and never pay rent again, the Path to Home Ownership, the whole bit, so that the agent actually is in the game with us, because the agent's actually making money as well.
That's beautiful. Now, on the other side of the coin, over the past 12 to 18 months, the biggest challenge I hear from other real estate investors is, how in the world do you find the deals in this crazy market when, there's no inventory and there's nothing in the multiple listing service, and, there's 1 month of inventory, in a lot of markets. And how do you find the deals? So what's been your experience, and what's your favorite way in this crazy market to actually find the deals and the houses to buy or control?
That's a great question, Jay. And of course, you're absolutely right that in some markets it's crazy. And what we do is actually, I have agents out there that are hunting deals for me. So I've got the same relationships. In fact, the same agents that are bringing me buyers are bringing me deals as well. And I tell them, look, you can help me when you bring me this buyer. You can help me find a house for them too. So they get excited about that, and they do. They actually go to work and they start bringing me all kinds of deals. And of course, I explain to our criteria, and our typical house is not all fixed up and it's not in perfect condition. And we've got to have a spread, and they understand that. And so most of them do, not all of them, but you got to train them. And they start bringing opportunities. And many times these are deals within their office that haven't yet been posted to the MLS. So I'm getting these stealth deals. I also get that from relationships with the mayor, with the city council, county commission, other shakers and movers in the community. They're bringing me deals, real estate agents, like I said. So there's a lot of unique ways that we receive our deals, in addition to the traditional marketing that we do, like postcards and the traditional marketing that we all do. These are our stealth opportunities, and I get a good number of them that way.
Lou, it sounds like that you've learned that networking and building relationships is a very, very important part of having a successful business.
Without a doubt, it's an important aspect of who you are and what you do. You got to open your mouth and tell people what you do. And it's one of the reasons we built this brand, Certified Affordable Housing Provider. So we have something to talk to people about. And when we're explaining to them who we are and what we do and our program called the Path to Home Ownership, we've really got a story to tell. And that engages people. They're interested in it. And almost everybody knows somebody that either has a house for sale or wants to sell, thinking about it, or needs to buy a house and can't qualify the traditional way. So a lot of our deals do come from referrals from other people. And in fact, once you get your feet on the ground and you really get yourself hunkered into your community, that's where a lot of your deals are going to come from after you're marketed out and you've got people starting to respond to your marketing. It comes a lot in referrals.
Well, Lou, in over 40 years, you've done just about every kind of real estate that there is out there to do. But specifically in the world of single family houses, what would you say is the biggest or one of the biggest mistakes you've made in the past and the lesson learned from that you can share with the audience so they don't go down that same road?
Not properly valuing the property. That is a big mistake that I do see investors do. They don't do the homework necessary to truly properly value the property. It's such an important aspect. And, obviously, if you think the house is going to sell for 250,000, but you missed the mark by 20 grand, well, you're going to eat that. You're either going to carry it forever until the market catches up, or you're going to take a hit. And so I just really always encourage people to really know your numbers. And when you're getting started in this business, it doesn't hurt to look at a lot of houses, and it doesn't take, and it makes a lot of sense to focus on an area. Don't focus on the entire metro area, focus on a market. So one of the things I teach is build a business within 5 miles of where you live. Within 5 miles of where you live is all kinds of stuff, and you don't even know it because you drive past it all the time. And so I teach people how to get into their communities, get into their target market, and really identify that target market. And then once you do that, you're able to identify price points, and you already know that neighborhood. You know what things are selling for. You know what you can get in that neighborhood. And it's a reason that I said before, we find the buyers before we buy, so we don't make those kind of mistakes.
When a new real estate investor, Lou, is starting out, what team members do they really need on their team in order to be prepared to actually engage in this business? From, do they need a realtor? Do they need a relationship with a realtor? And if so, what other professionals do they need a relationship with?
Well, they absolutely need a good title company. They need somebody that they can rely on that will do the title work. I write all of my contracts that it's going to close at this one place. And I don't care if I'm buying, I don't care if I'm selling, I don't care what argument anybody has, we're closing at my title company. And that has just saved me untold fortunes in terms of headaches and challenges and just all kinds of things that a new company is going to ask for that I don't have to give to the one that already knows me. So that's a very vital piece of the puzzle. Another is to have a good relationship with a real estate agent. If you're not one already, a lot of people are agents or becoming agents, and there's nothing wrong with that. And definitely gives you a leg up in terms of being able to have access to the MLS and other type comp services and things like that. So we love our relationships that are needed there. The third thing, of course, is a contractor, because all houses are not created equal. And some people coming in to the home aren't going to be able to do all of the repairs. And so you want to have somebody you can rely on. And so I've got a leader and then a team under him that does different things: roofer, electrical, plumbing, heating and air conditioning, and drywall, paint, that kind of thing. And so we are able to get into a home and get things turned around pretty quickly because of having that team.
That's awesome. Lou, I know my audience is going to want to get connected with you. And what is the best way to continue the conversation and connect with Lou Brown?
Well, I love it, Jay. Well, I tell you what, I wrote a book. It took me 10 years to write this book, Jay.
I can relate to the pain.
I wrote a book called Buy, Hold, Sell. And I'm telling you what, this is my best stuff. I'm telling you the good stuff. And Jay, because of you, I love you. I love Carol Joy. You guys have been amazing in my life, and I just really appreciate it. And I want to connect in a very meaningful way with your folks. So I want to give them the book, and they can go to streetsmartinvestor.com/buy, hold, sell. streetsmartinvestor.com/buy, hold, sell. You can either get a download for free, or, for little shipping and handling, we'll ship you a copy. But I tell you what, that is a very important book to read, because it's going to it reads like a movie, and it takes you from start to finish about what we do and how we do it. And we absolutely love what we do. And one of the biggest things we love is changing other people's lives. You know, you think about it. Who are you being in the market when you are out there in the world? Who are you being? Are you making a difference? You might be making a difference in your life because you're making money, and that's good for yourself and your family. Nothing wrong with that. But think about this. You're changing somebody else's life for the better. Now, you got to know that that's not only changing their life, that's changing their children's lives, their grandchildren's lives, their great-grandchildren's life. You're changing 7 generations is what Harvard study says. So it's amazing what home ownership does to a family and does to generations to come. And you can be that spark. You can be that challenge. You can be that value in the marketplace. And I just challenge everybody to do that, to have their business be more than just about themselves, and to be about the community as well. Be about making a difference in the community. So that's what I love to share with people. I've got another book called Doing Good While Doing Well: How Real Estate Investors Make a Difference and Provide a Service. That's also an Amazon.com bestseller. You can get that one too. GetDoingGoodBook.com. GetDoingGoodBook.com. But I tell you what, it's a lot of fun. And when you get to a certain place in life and a certain point in your investing career and your money and everything else, it becomes more about significance and making a difference in other people's lives. So that's one of the reasons I love to teach and teach others how to build amazing multi-million-dollar businesses, because I just like them to run a Xerox copy of the one that I've got and say, let's show you how to do that.
Lou, I appreciate you so much. I love your heart. I love your soul. And I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on here and offering your books up to the audience. And I just appreciate you for coming. Thank you so much.
Yeah, baby. Well, thank you, Jay. Say hi to Carol Joy for me.
I'll sure do it. I'll sure do it. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of Real Estate Investing with Jay Conner, the Private Money Academy podcast. And do take up Lou's offer there on his books that he offered up. We really appreciate you giving us reviews, and be sure to subscribe, rate, review. We really appreciate the 5 stars. And we look forward to having you with us right here on the very next Private Money Academy podcast.